Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome, welcome, welcome. You got me monologuing. I am Tony. How we doing tonight? Nice little group there. Outstanding. Very glad you decided to check us out tonight. We're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to be doing weathering techniques, and I got a million and one. That's some primer needs to be put away. I've got a whole bunch of different medium and whatnot that we're going to use. We're going to use some washes. We're going to use some traditional acrylic washes as we know them. We're going to create some oil washes with some raw umber and some gold ochre oil paints. We're going to use some enamels. Tamiya panel liner. We got dark gray. We've got black. I've also got a light gray, but it's not really appropriate for this. We've got weathering pigments. Tamiya Weathering Master. We've got a couple of different ones. We're going to be mostly interested in the gunmetal, the soot, and the rust colors out of this. And then lastly, new product. Haven't tried this before, so we're going to be experimenting together. This comes to us courtesy of our friends at Grognard Games. Sponsor, Mini Masterworks. This is water-activated colored pencils for rust, dirt, and damage. It'll allow you to, it says it'll easily apply rust, dirt, and damage to your miniatures, models, and terrain for maximum battlefield effect. So they've got a couple of different pencils. I got a whole bunch of rusts, some chipping, some streaking. So we're going to focus on these first. I want to see how well they work, how much I like them, and then as we move on, we'll try some other techniques as well. So we're going to start here with this. So that's where we're starting. Now the three pieces that I have, I've already started these clearly. So what we did, all three of these pieces were primed with Stynylrez metal primer. It's a metal finish. And then over top of that, we put a layer of Worn Effects from AK Interactive. Now, here's the problem that I had. The Worn Effects worked very, very well for what I wanted on this building. You can see lightly weathered along the raised surfaces. Essentially what you do is you put the Worn Effects fluid down in 2 to 3 light coats. Let that dry, and then you put a top coat. You put your final color over the top of that. Easy enough. Once that top coat dries, you then reactivate the Worn Effects with a little bit of moisture. So you put some water down on it, and then you scrub it with a stiff bristle brush or a toothpick, and you get this flaking effect. The cool thing was this particular color. This is Tamiya. This is not Tamiya. This is Vallejo Model Air White Gray. I love this color for my Star Wars ships. X-Wing, Millennium Falcon, Y-Wing, A-Wing. This is that great base gray color. And it worked real well on this. 2 coats of the white gray, and we had coverage across the whole thing. I let it set overnight, and it chipped off beautifully. The instructions say when the top coat is dry. The problem is with acrylic paints, you have dry and then you have cured. A dry paint is dry to the touch, but it hasn't completely solidified. The acrylic matrix has not completely formed. That takes a little while for your mediums to evaporate, even though it feels dry to the touch. Once that bond is solidified, you end up with what I ended up on these, where the chipping did not go nearly as easily. You can see a lot more big flakes. I had to use toothpicks to even get what I have here. I wasn't that crazy about it. This is medium yellow, again, Vallejo. This one is Model Air, medium yellow. Not as thrilled, although it came out a little bit better here on the cement mixer. It's still not as nice and neat and minutely chipped as we got on this. So let's start. We're going to do a little bit of I'm going to get a little bit of water out. I'm going to use, I'll just use some pure water. And now for the work that we're about to do, do not break out your good brushes, please. Use your cheapos, use your synthetics. Weathering does not need a $20 paintbrush. Alright, so we got just a little pot of water there. I'm going to grab some synthetic brushes here. Grab a couple of different ones. So let me do this. Can I back this up? All right. So what I want to do is on the top here. This is where I want a lot of rust and a lot of water effects. So let's break out the Mini Masterworks pencils. This is where we want to start. And once again, all these can absolutely be bought from our friends over at Grognard Games anytime. So let's take a look at the colors that they provide us here. Alright, so these are some heavy duty pencils. So you got a rust blending. We've got a couple of different rusts here. Let's take a look at all these brown colors. Okay. Alright, we've got light rust, brown rust, mud and dark earth, that's going to be handy, chipping and streaking, dark rust, and red rust. The other colors that come with it, streaking grime, dirt slash earth, blue-green oxide, soot, and then dust and watermarks. So, I think we want to start with some brown rust, some light rust, and some blending rust. And we're going to start this up here on the top. I have never used these before in my life. After I did all my chipping, I hit this whole thing with a gloss coat. Everything gets a gloss coat. It locks in the chipping effects. It protects the paint from everything we're about to do to it. And we're about to do a whole bunch to it. All right. So I'm going to start with the brown rust, and I'm just going to kind of work it in along these edges. It's got a bit of a reddish tone to it. Let me get my cheaters on. So as I said in the description, you will have the opportunity to win a set of these pencils. $20 value. I'll send them out to you. Just keep watching. We'll talk about how a little bit later on. Okay. Now here, okay. Let's go ahead and add some light rust to this as well. Now I want this to be somewhat weathered. I don't need it to be, we're not looking at, Tatooine rebels here. We're looking at, an urban area. We're looking at something that's owned by the Fisk Corporation. Actually, in this case, it's Damage Control. So it's going to have some water damage up here on top. One of the things that I want to do put some streaks across the entirety of the roof. Right here, right around this edge. I want to make it feel like water pools here, right? Maybe there's a little dent right there. And that's what's causing all of this cracking. Okay. Again, never use these pencils, so I'm experimenting here. So I'm going to take some water. I'm going to take a fatter brush here. I'm just going to work these pencils. Okay. So you don't even have to do much working here. A little bit of moisture is all this is going to take. Sorry, just realized I'm drifting off camera. So my thought is water is going to gather a lot around the corners and along the edges. So that's where we want most of this to end up, right? We're going to blend it. We're going to blend it very lightly. Okay. More water I put on here, the more streaking I'm going to get. Okay. If I load up the brush, I'm going to dilute that down. Okay. I'm going to work it to where we get just a hint of that all the way across. Okay. So what I definitely want to do I want to put a little bit more pressure behind it. I want to put more of this pigment down. And now we're going to grab a little bit more water. I want it to feel like there's a big old puddle right here. This thing just spews out water onto the roof. Okay. Not mad at this. I'm not mad at this at all. Okay. So let's see here. Grab some of this dark rust. I'm going to put a little bit of it right around this chip. Just broke a couple of chips of paint off here. Oh, that works really well too. Get this a little bit wet first. That makes sense. Okay. Okay. All right. I am not mad at any of this. We'll let that dry for a little bit on the roof. So what I want to do now, I'm going to try something here. On this back, let's do it on this side panel. I want to run some streaking grime. So what I'm going to do here is I'm taking the streaking grime, I'm going to run it along all of these edges. Okay. And let's see what that looks like with a little bit of water. Bigger brush. There you are. Ooh, Daddy like that. Now, run this Q-tip right down the center of each of these panels. That is nicely weathered. Okay. Not mad at any of this. I'm going to try a couple of the... Let's try the... Oh. It's a still damp surface on the top. Reattach. Nope, that tape has lost its stickiness, it would appear. Okay. That's not cool. Alright. So what I want to do down here is I'm going to use some of the mud color. So I will say this kind of looks like butt right now. We got a little bit of this darker brown loaded into the brush. We're going to reinforce some of this streaking going on the side of this. Alright, so what are you thinking so far? I think I like the yellow of the streak and grime. So we're going to go ahead and put some of this in here. We'll work it around. Make sure that it goes all the way to the bottom. All right. All right. So now on this side, we got the chipping and streaking grime. I want to see what this kind of looks like. I'm going to put this in a couple of these. I'm just going to run the brush down that. Alright, so this streaking grime has got more red in it than I want. So the browns are super, super red, which is not what I'm looking for in a streak. So we're going to switch up the tack. And we're going to go with something with a little bit more of that ochre in it. We're going to go with the streaking grime. So what we're going to do here, actually, you know what I want to do? I want to do this a little bit differently for this. I'm going to put some water down first. I'm going to do this section right here. And with the water down, I'm going to take this pencil, we're going to work, there we go. Okay. And now we can take our brush and can work that around. This one I like better. It's much more subtle than your traditional wash would be. So let's go ahead. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to grab a Q-tip. I'm going to remove a little bit of this. A little bit of the whites back into there. I'm not trying to turn this completely yellow here. There we go. I'm trying to give it some weather. I'm trying to make it look streaked and kind of dirty and dingy. Not that one. Didn't like that one. But I did like this. I'm going to put a couple of little brown streaks on this. And while I'm at it, I'm going to try some of this black, some of this soot. And this is going to be coming from directly underneath windows and whatnot. Places where you might get a little bit of runoff. Pull the browns up from the bottom, the blacks down from the top. Just going to get some variations here. Various dirt and grime and soot. There we go. I mean, it's super subtle. I'm not going for super bright streaks, super high contrast. Not yet, at least. That's the other thing about making streaks. You can make them positive or negative. You can do it with the grime, or you can streak into the grime. All right. I'm not mad at this. Okay. So those are our weathering pencils, our water-based. I'm going to try a little something something here on the bottom. And for this something something, I'm going to need my metal palette. I'm going to take a little bit of raw umber. A drop of that right there. We're going to take a little bit of our gold ochre here. Okay. Now I got a brush I put together just for this. So we're going to take a little bit of each of these. I'm going to make this muddy brown. Okay. Now the next thing we need is some white spirits. I just got Artist White over at Michael's. Okay. Don't need a lot. We're going to do a bit of a gunk wash here at the bottom. What I mean by a gunk wash is we're going to take this and we're just going to work it in. Now the reason we're using oils for this is just another weathering technique, right? Oils take a long time to dry. It gives us a long open time. The first thing I want to do is I make sure that everything is going downward strokes. Okay. I'll set that off to the side for just a minute. And while it sits there, we're going to take this and wipe off this piece here. I'm going to grab a Q-tip, a little bit of white spirits on it, and I'm going to clean that off. Clean up along here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I can let it sit a little bit longer, but I don't want to. I'm going to start pulling this all down, just straight down. Oh, James Wapple, would you be proud of me? I would hope you would be. Alright, so what I'm going to grab here, one of my favorite weathering tools, makeup sponges. Alright, so all we want to do, we want to kind of use this. We're going to get in there and we're just going to pull. Now, if you were painting, I'd tell you you'd want to let this set up a little bit longer, but we're not painting this. We're weathering this at this point. So you don't want to let this set up too much, otherwise it's going to be harder to pull out. It's not going to look weathered, it's just going to look brown. I'll drag that across the top surface, and now look at that. And then we can do some little tricks inside of those tricks. So I'm going to grab another synthetic brush here. I'm going to grab a little bit of white spirits on it. All right, I'm going to dab that off. And then I'm going to start running some streaks. And you can use any oil paints. Optilung actually makes a series of oils. I'm doing this all with just a damp little brush here. It's just got the slightest hint of mineral spirits on it. I'm able to create a lot of variance in there. There you go. Look at that. So I really dig that. Now the thing about oils, when you do these oil techniques, you've got to let these sit and dry for a couple of days before you seal them up. And you absolutely want to seal them up. So what I want to do is I want to finish up the upper portions here. The pencils are nice, not for this. We're going to find some other ways to use those. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to grab some of this ochre. A little bit of brown in here. This is more ochre than brown, though. I'm okay with that. I think these pencils are better suited for this. We'll see. I think this is where oils shine, right here. You can do a lot of amazing things. And James Wapple, God bless that man. He does some amazing work with oils. And he does it quickly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of this darker brown and I'm going to mix it right in there at the bottom of this. Okay. Now we streak. Look at what we're able to do here. Look at that. That is flipping awesome. So now I'm going to have a little bit more fun with it. I need to clean my brush out here. Or do I? No, I don't. I'm going to need some more white spirits, though. I got bunches and bunches of brushes here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this larger brush. This is an old number 8. It's a Lowell Cornell. It's a cheap brush. I snipped off the point to make it a big flat brush. And now we're going to just take this and we're going to brush it down. Okay. Look at that. The great thing about oils is the ability to manipulate it for such a long time. I said I didn't want this to look like it was completely dilapidated, but I want it to look nicely weathered. I want it to look like it's picking up dirt on a construction site. It's got a little bit of rust on it. Look at that. I like that. Ooh, now what I'll do. All right. Let's find a small brush. One of my smaller synthetics. And grab just some of the darker brown. We'll bring it right here. Put some of this right up in there. Okay. Now, look at that. Some nice grimy streaks right underneath the window. We can lighten it up if it's too dark just by running a paper towel over it or a Q-tip. I do like these tighter pack Q-tips. You get a little bit of spirits on there. I gotta say, that looks pretty spectacular. So let's do that. Let's do the same thing up here on the roof. And why did I do that with that brush? All right. Here we go. I am going to need more of this ochre. I got plenty of the darker color right there. We're just going to slop this on. Okay. Let's go ahead and work on the sides of this while that's drying too. Want to make sure that the oil gets all up into the upper and down into the lower parts. Every crack and crevice you can jam it into. You want to jam that oil paint in there. gorgeous. I don't care who you are. That's awesome. All right, so we're going to leave the face for a moment. We're going to start working on the top. I'm going to grab me some gloves for this. So right now I am doing a ton of work here with my hands, and I can put my hands in all that oil and transfer it. So let me get my gloves. We're definitely going to find a use for those pencils. I don't think this is the right use. I don't think this is the right scale, I should say. We're definitely going to find a way to utilize those, however. All right. So, you can still see some of that rust peeking out from underneath. That big spot right there. Oh, I'm digging this. All right, so the pencil's laid really, really nice under the oil. I'm not touching the rest of that roof. Instead, I'm going to move over to this side. Let's take this. Let's really clean this bad boy up. Come on, tell me this isn't the right way to go. Look how quickly we weathered that entire edge. All right. You'll notice I'm working it up and down. I'm not going side to side across this because I want the streaks to run up and down. If I start cutting side to side, I'm gonna diminish that effect. And the great thing about this, about doing this way, is I've got more control. If I want this to look cleaner, all I need is a little bit of mineral spirits. So there's the clean white front, the weathered top, the weathered side. Look at that. Boom. Go with. The dynamite. Come on. So now I got chip metal all over it. We've got dirt caught in every crevice. Look at that. We even got that actually looks like water has set. It's cracking that paint. I am super duper happy with how this is looking so far. All right. I know I got the front side to still do on that. Let's go ahead and do it now. Yeah, why not? We're gonna let it set up for a little bit, and then we got some other things we want to do to it. I want to wear down the stairs where everybody would walk up the stairs there. So I want that to be more weathered down to metal. So I'm going to dry brush a little bit of metal on there. The handrails I'm going to paint black. All right. So I'm just pounding this in hard, quick and dirty, right? I don't know what is going on with my dog upstairs, but he will not. He's behind the couch very clearly and just scratching. I don't know why. Okay. All right. Now we're just going to take some of this darker tone. We're going to hit all of these edges. Alright, so just working this in. I know there's a long stretch of silence. You know, I should give you guys some music. Alright. Alright, so I need to clean out my brush. Let me do that real quick. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. Okay. All right. Okay. 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 That one's pretty much full up. All right. Got some good clean space on the sponge. Let's go ahead and just keep pulling this all down. Alright, so this part is going to be trickier. Okay. Let me grab Q-tips on this. There we go. So all I'm doing is I'm working the oils off. Put them on nice and thick, but that gives me control. If I wanted this dirtier and grimier, I just wouldn't work as much of it off. I'm going to grab another one of these. Stand by. Weathering products. There we go. Nope. There we go. So I'm just going to grab a whole bunch more of these wedges. Okay, let's clean off that step. Okay. All right. Okay, we're getting there. Okay. That was weird. I don't know if y'all heard that or not. well, what do you know? I dig what we got here. I dig this a lot. All right. We're going to let that set up and cure. I think we're good on that. Once it's cured, I'm going to put a dull coat over everything. And then we'll go through and we'll do some more weathering. We'll do things like the doors, we'll do the logo, we'll do the air conditioning unit. But what I want to do is I want to lock this in before we move on to any of that. All right. I'm happy. I am super happy with this. But yeah, things like the doors, the windows, the AC unit, those all need to be done separately. All right. Okay. Done for now. So, that's using oil washes. That's using those pencils. We're going to try a couple of other little things here now. Get rid of all of that. All right. All right, so cleaning up. Let me clean up my oil brushes here real quick. Okay. All right, we're going to let that all set up there. So I want to do a couple of different things with these, right? First things first, I'm going to dry brush this black with some metallics. I want to make it look this a little bit more metallic. So I'm going to grab steel. And I'm going to grab my mid-size dry brush. Now the thing about this paint is it's super thin. Usually when I'm dry brushing, right, I'm going to be working with a moisture pad. I'm not doing that this time. This is already super thin and super fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of it on my brush. I'll work it around. I don't want a lot. buff that into the roof here. All right. Okay. All right. Got the inside of that dozer blade down. All right. Let me grab a little bit of aluminum. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some of this steel and just a touch of that aluminum just to brighten it up a hair. Again, working most of it off. Okay. That is dry brushed. Let me clean out my brush here. All right, so let me grab one of these brushes, a little bit of moisture, just a touch, just to get a point. Grab this steel and we're going to work over the inside of this. Make sure it's nice and covered. Okay, being a little sloppy around the edges on this. We'll do a little bit of metallic wet blending. Okay. All right. I think we got ourselves a nice bulldozer blade there. Clean up my metallics. Put away my dry brush board. All right. Where are we at? 8:30. All right. I'm going to say not bad for the amount of time we put it into this so far. So let's talk about the next way we can weather. We've done the pencils a little bit. We can do traditional washes, or we can grab our Tamiya panel liner. In this case, I'm using dark gray. I do have black. I have light gray as well. I think black will be a little bit too much for what I'm looking to do here. All right, so in this case, we're going to go a little bit more targeted. I'm not going to do an all-over gunk wash. I don't need to do that. I've got some nice speckling in the yellow with the undercoat. I got some nice chipping. So all I want to do are some accents. And this yellow and this gray will go perfect together. This is what I love about these enamels. Watch this. Just touch that joint and it flows. Right here on the front. Touch it. Boom. Want that a little bit darker, so I'm going to hit it with a second one. Capillary action, my friends. Now, I got some parts that need to be painted other colors still. So, once again, we're going to put down our weathering on this layer. And then we're going to lock it in. We're going to take a nice dull coat over the whole thing. And then once that dull coat is down, we can paint our other colors over top of it. So for example, the Fisk logo right here, I'm not keeping that yellow. I'm going to paint that up. All right, so okay. I'll let that gray set on there. Don't think there's much on this that needs to be done. Okay. All right, so for right now, I think I'm going to have to call this a night because I need to let all of this set up. I need to take a few. I need to let everything set so I can put down a dull coat. Once I'm able to do that, we're going to go through and we're going to hit all the details on this. I'm not really set up to paint my regular minis, and I really probably should step out of these fumes. I got a lot of oil and enamel off gassing in here right now, so I'm going to do just that. I'm going to call this a night for right now. Shorter stream, I get it. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow night we're talking about the X-Men. Comic, movies, animated series. Oh, I completely forgot about these guys. Ooh. You know what these guys get? Set this guy up here. Set this guy up here. Before we leave, we're going to take some straight up strong tone and we're going to give these guys a good wash. All right. Completely missed the fact that these were sitting off to the side, and I started them with the intention of working on them as part of this, so let's go ahead and finish them up. Now, one of the things I'm going to do, yeah, I've got a brown wash here. It's super dark brown wash. I want as little tide pooling as possible. So I'm laying it on thick, but then I'm hitting it with water. Actually, flow aid. So when you add a lot of water to your washes while they're on the model, A, it helps prevent tide pooling. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to work my way across. But on these, I don't care if I get some tide pools. Tide pools, streaks, all of that stuff is actually okay on these. Why? They're outdoor barricades. I want them to look kind of grimy and beat up. All right, let's go ahead and get the brown down on this side. So all I'm doing here is grabbing a little bit of this water, working it on. Okay. And last little bit here. All right. We're just going to let all of this set up, and we're going to call it a night. So I appreciate those of you join me tomorrow night. We will be talking X-Men. Gah! It's going to be talking comics, movies, animated series, all of it. This weekend I will be at WindyCon. I'm going to be doing some beginners painting courses at WindyCon, which I will be streaming so that I can project it onto the projector overhead. So you're welcome to join us for that, but it's going to be super, super, duper, duper intro to painting. So we're going to be working with the WizKids paint night kits. We're going to be painting up red slots this weekend, 2 sessions. So I appreciate all of you who joined me tonight. I'm going to call it a night here. I thank you very much, and you guys have a great one.